Hey guys, tonight we're going to drift gently back to the frigid coasts of Scandinavia, where the seas are black, the skies are low, and every man's beard is a badge of survival. You're not just floating through history, you're boarding a Viking longship. The cold wind slaps your cheeks, salty mist stings your eyes, and below that fancy helmet, your chin is already regretting today's grooming decisions. You can feel the crust of salt forming, your beard twisting into its own little storm cloud. Good luck keeping that tangle out of your soup. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and the time you're listening in the comments. I love knowing where and when we're unwinding together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step aboard the longship before dawn. The air is cold enough to make your eyes water. The sea, churning just below your boots, already smells of salt and fish and old iron. Around you, the other men grunt and stretch, adjusting their cloaks, checking their weapons, and, of course, checking their beards. There's pride in the way they do it. Braids are tugged tighter. Loose ends are smoothed with quick, practiced fingers. One man's beard is thick and coppery, plaited into two strands that hang like tusks. Another's is jet black and knotted with bone beads, rattling faintly as he walks. And your fingers are stiff with cold, your beard damp from sea mist, but you try your best. You remember your uncle's warning, go to sea with a messy beard, and the gods will think you're a goat. You're still not sure if that was metaphor or just a bad personal experience. It's not just about vanity. A tangled, dirty beard can get nasty fast in this cold. Infection, lice, frostbite if it ices over. You've heard stories. You try not to think about them. Braids help, though. A braided beard doesn't whip around in the wind or soak up every drop of sea spray. And those beads? They aren't just decorative, they keep the ends from unraveling. Some say the patterns tell your clan, your lineage. Others just say they look intimidating. Either way, every warrior on this boat has spent time in front of a fire, slowly and carefully twisting his beard into a statement. Historians still argue whether Vikings braided their beards every day, or only for raids and rituals. But archaeological finds show that grooming tools, bone combs, beard beads, even tweezers, were treasured and often buried with their owners. These weren't afterthoughts. They were essentials. You glance down at your own toolkit tucked in your pouch. The comb is carved from deer antler, etched with simple swirls. It's not fancy, but it's smooth, and it pulls out knots without yanking too hard. You've oiled it with seal fat to keep it from cracking. The little tin of balm is nearly empty, whale oil mixed with crushed herbs your aunt gave you before you left. It smells like a sour garden, but it does the job. The man next to you snorts. Still using that stink paste, he asks, grinning through his frost-dusted beard. Might as well smear fish guts on your chin. You smirk, but you're careful not to argue too hard. That man once knocked out a tree with his shoulder. Probably on purpose. Still, there's camaraderie in it. Everyone knows the struggle. Your arms are cold, your face is raw, your beard's frozen solid at the edges, and still, you're expected to look like Thor's better-dressed cousin. The ship creaks beneath your feet. The wind stiffens. You tighten your cloak and rub at a knot forming near your chin. If you could see yourself in a mirror, you'd probably look half drowned and half fabulous. One of the younger warriors pulls a frozen muscle out of his beard with a disgusted grunt. That's breakfast sorted, someone mutters, and the group chuckles quietly. Not too loud. Not yet. The sea is moody today. You tuck your pouch away and stretch your fingers. The ship's prow cuts the waves like a blade, and the icy air feels like 1,000 tiny knives. But your beard, stiff and sea-slick though it is, holds strong. The braid is lopsided. The oil is wearing off. But it's still yours, woven with a little pride, a little fear, and a lot of cold mornings like this one. The oarsmen grunt in rhythm, and you settle into the cadence. The sea sloshes, the ropes creak, and somewhere behind you, someone is cursing under their breath about knotting on a moving boat. A normal Viking morning. You glance toward the horizon, wondering how long it'll be before you land, or whether you'll have to redo the braid before meeting the Jarl. Some men rebraid 3 times a day, swearing it keeps the lice confused. Others swear less and let their beards live their own chaotic little lives. But whether you're meticulous or messy, the truth is this: your beard goes where you go. It soaks in the smoke of the cooking fire. It stiffens in the salt breeze. It absorbs the fear and sweat and glory of every raid, every storm, every song bellowed into the darkness. And as you close your eyes for a moment, rocking gently with the ship's rhythm, you know one thing for sure: no matter how far this voyage takes you, your beard will tell the tale, knotted, crusted, windwoven and all. You rub your fingers along the braid, feeling where the salt crust has formed overnight. It's rough, almost like tiny glass shards embedded in your hair. As the ship rises and falls, you are forced to lean into the sway, keeping your balance on slick, icy planks. Around you, the men are coughing, snorting seawater, and wiping their faces on sleeves that are just as wet as the sea itself. Salt spray isn't just an aesthetic hazard, it's a health hazard. It cracks skin, chafes eyelids, and turns any beard into a brittle snarl. That's why so many carry little pots of whale oil or seal fat to smear through the hairs. It's greasy, sure. You can smell it a mile off. But it keeps the salt from sucking all the moisture out. One man next to you has clearly given up. His beard is wild, stiff as straw, crusted white at the edges. He runs his fingers through it and winces. Might snap off, he mutters. Another claps him on the back and suggests using fish guts as a conditioner. Everyone laughs in that tight, controlled way you do when you're cold enough that too much movement hurts. Historians still argue whether Viking crews carried ample grooming supplies on every voyage or if they simply made do with what they found at landfall. There's evidence of big cargo holds crammed with goods for trade and tribute, but not many references to crates marked beard oil, do not tip. It's likely they improvised, boiling animal fat or trading for local oils in foreign ports. You remember an elder's advice about the wind knots? He always said that the sea gods tie the wind into your hair to punish arrogance. Best to braid it tight, appease them a little. Superstitious nonsense? Maybe. But you're not about to risk it. The wind picks up, whistling low through the sail. You lean forward, elbows on your knees, carefully untying one segment of braid to rework it. The salt has made it like uncoiling wire. You tug, wince, pause. The man on your left offers his comb without even looking over, just holds it out until you take it. That's the Viking version of spa service, silent, grumpy, but helpful. You start combing. The teeth are worn from years of use, smooth from handling, and the bone is etched with runic designs. No one here would dream of leaving home without one. Your comb is as essential as your axe. As you work, you remember another old trick, soaking the comb in warm oil to soften hardened salt. Too bad there's no fire on the longship's deck. You're tempted to breathe hot air onto it, but your breath is already frosting in front of your face. Not helpful. A gust hits you, spraying cold seawater over the side. Everyone shudders. The man with the wild beard wipes his eyes and mutters, "Gods help me, I should have stayed inland." Someone else retorts, "You? You'd braid the goats' beards and call it farming." More laughter, thin and mean but necessary. You keep combing, slow and careful, teasing out the knots. Your fingers are numb. Every tug feels like a trial. But you keep at it. Because you know that if you let it go too long, it'll mat so hard you'll have to cut it. And you're not about to show up at a raid with half a beard. The salt crust is deceptive. It looks like frost, pretty and white. But it slices the hair if left too long. Split ends? Vikings had them. Probably complained about them, too. You can almost hear the ancient complaint, "My beard's so frayed I'll snag it on my own shield." Another gust. Another spray. You hunch deeper into your cloak, careful to cover your newly detangled braid. A man behind you starts cursing in Old Norse so creatively you wonder if he's making up new words. You only catch bits about wind demons and salt-tongued witches. You grin. Maybe there's something to the idea of the sea as alive and petty. It certainly seems to have it out for your facial hair. Historians still debate whether certain regions of Scandinavia had formal grooming guilds, people who specialized in beard care for warriors about to depart. The sagas mention servants helping nobles with their hair and beards, but the average raider probably did it himself or with a buddy. Mutual grooming isn't always glamorous, but it gets the job done. Your friend nudges you. He points at your braid and says, "Better." Still ugly. You shrug, managing a grin. Ugly enough to scare monks. That gets a chuckle. You tuck the comb back into your pouch. It's wet now, your fingers too numb to tie the flap properly. You just jam it closed and focus on the wind. It's colder now. The sea is darker, swirling like ink. The oarsmen keep their rhythm. They're all hoods and hunched shoulders, but you can see the occasional flash of beard beneath the cowls. Salt glistens on them like tiny jewels. You remember once hearing that the salt was good luck, that it proved the sea accepted you. You suspect whoever said that was trying to make themselves feel better about looking like a human barnacle. Another memory surfaces, the time you tried using butter as a beard balm. That ended with dogs chasing you halfway through camp. Lesson learned. The ship dips into a trough, spray drenching everyone. You close your eyes, shiver, and hold tight to your braid. You think about the men who came before, braiding their beards before dawn raids, telling each other that salt in the hair was a promise of safe passage, even if they didn't believe it. You can almost hear them. Grumbling. Laughing. Complaining about split ends. And you know, deep down, that tomorrow will be the same. Wake up, scrape off the salt, redo the braid, and curse the sea for making you do it all over again. Your hands ache from the cold, but you keep them tucked inside your cloak, fingers curling and uncurling to get the blood moving. The braid in your beard is stiff, but you can feel where it's loosened at the base, so you carefully pinch it tighter. Around you, the world is all grey sea and rolling fog, the horizon lost in gloom. There's no conversation now. Just the scrape of oars against wet wood, the slap of water against the hull, and the wind whispering curses in your ear. It's in these moments you really understand why they say the sea is a god. Not a friendly one, more like a cruel old man who steals your warmth and laughs while you freeze. You look over at the man beside you. He's chewing on dried fish, flecks of it caught in his beard. He doesn't even notice. You're about to tease him, but the look in his eyes says don't. He's already had enough salt for one morning. You reach for your comb again. The teeth are cold, biting into your palm. You drag it through the ends of your beard slowly. It's less about style now and more about survival. Untangle it before it becomes a nest for lice. Historians still argue whether Viking beards were always the long, flowing manes popular in modern art, or if most men kept them trimmed short to avoid lice and frostbite. The truth is probably both. Wealthier, more prestigious warriors might have sported grand, ornamented beards, while poorer men kept them cropped for convenience. But no one wanted a tangled, rotting mess hanging off their face. Your friend snorts, watching you comb. Trying to seduce the sea spirits, he says. You roll your eyes. If it'll get us calmer weather, I'll braid it into a fishing net. He laughs once, a dry, wind-choked sound. You lean back against the side of the ship, eyes half closed. The motion is constant, hypnotic. Back and forth, back and forth. You let it lull you a little, despite the cold. There's another reason to braid the beard tight, the wind. It yanks on anything loose. If you leave your beard unbound, you risk it whipping into your eyes, snagging on your gear, even catching in your mouth while you're shouting orders. Hard to look fearsome when you're spitting out your own hair. So you keep at it, fingers numb but determined. You're weaving your identity here, literally and figuratively. The beads you use are carved from walrus ivory. Each one has a different design, a serpent, a knotwork spiral, a little ship. They are not just pretty. They're yours. Tokens of raids, gifts from friends, trophies in miniature. One guy at the stern has silver beads in his beard, polished so bright they catch the grey light. He claims he took them from an Irish chieftain who died running away. No one believes him, but no one challenges him either. You tuck your own beads tighter, making sure they won't slide off. A single lost bead could be a minor tragedy out here. No shops in the middle of the ocean. The oarsmen start chanting softly to keep time. It's not a song exactly, but a rhythm. You hum along. It fills the silence, pushes back the cold. Historians still debate whether these chants had set words or were just improvised. Probably both. Some sagas mention war songs with elaborate verses, but most of the time, it was probably just a guttural, primal call to keep the oars moving in unison. Your fingers are shaking. You stop braiding to blow warm air on them. Frost forms on your moustache. You taste salt and metal and old, stale air. You think about the old woman back home who gave you a little pouch of herbs to rub into your beard. She claimed it would ward off spirits and lice. You used it once. It smelled so strongly of wet pine you scared off half the camp dogs. Now you just use it when you're desperate. Your friend elbows you. Still braiding. You nod. Better than frostbite. He grunts in agreement, tugs at his own thick, uneven braid, and says, I just let mine free solid. Makes a good club. You both laugh. The ship dips again, spray flies. Your laugh cuts off as you gasp at the cold. There's something weirdly comforting about this misery. You're all suffering together. You all know the same struggle, keeping the beard neat enough to avoid embarrassment, tight enough to survive the wind, clean enough to avoid disease. Someone sneezes behind you so violently you hear his beads rattle. Another man curses about seawater dripping down his collar. It's a shared hardship. A brotherhood of the cold and bearded. You remember one time a man tried to burn lice out of his beard with a candle. Lost half of it and his eyebrows. He blamed the gods. The rest of you blamed his lack of sense. Your fingers are moving automatically now. Twist, pull, bead, tie. You feel like you could do it in your sleep. Which is good, because you're half asleep. The sea keeps roaring. The wind keeps clawing. The longship creaks, groans, moves ever forward. You close your eyes and picture the land you're sailing toward. Another coastline. Another monastery, maybe. Another set of wary eyes watching your ship slide out of the fog. You wonder if they'll even notice the neatness of your beard before they run. Probably not. But you'll know. And that's enough to keep you braiding.
You shift on the hard, damp bench, trying to coax life back into your legs. The wind's sharper now, slicing through the seams of your cloak like a knife. You pull the hood tighter over your head and check your braid with gloved fingers, making sure the knots hold. If it comes undone in this gale, you'll have to rebraid blind, and you're not in the mood to fight your own hair in the dark. The men around you are a study in misery. One has given up entirely, his beard a salty, snarled mat. He scowls at anyone who dares suggest he fix it. Another is working carefully by lantern light, the little flame guttering every time the ship rolls. His fingers are stained with whale oil, shining even in the gloom. You wonder how many of them even care about neatness. Not many will admit it, but it's pride, really. Even if you're soaked to the bone and half frozen, you don't want to look like a savage to the people you raid. There's a performance to all this. An image to maintain. Historians still argue whether Vikings consciously cultivated their fearsome look as propaganda, or if it just grew naturally out of necessity and cultural style. Those who believe it was deliberate point to the decorated weapons, the intricate jewelry, the carefully carved combs found in graves. Even in death, they wanted to look good. You hook your comb onto your belt for easy access. It clacks against the small knife you use for trimming stray hairs. It's not exactly a barber's razor, but it'll do. The key is to keep it sharp. Blunt blades tear hair out at the root, leaving you cursing for hours. Your fingers find a tangle near the chin. You tug carefully, wincing at the sting. The salt builds up so sneakily, doesn't it? You think you're fine, then suddenly it's like trying to untangle rope from a shipwreck. Someone mutters about kelp in their beard. Another says they once found a fish scale in theirs. You suspect they're only half joking. The man across from you is braiding his moustache into twin points. He claims it diverts water away from his lips. He also claims it impresses the gods. Hard to argue with that logic when he's got 5 beads in each end and the most smug grin on the ship. You smile, despite yourself. There's an art to braiding, one you've learned through trial and error. Too tight, and it pulls the skin painfully. Too loose, and the wind destroys it. You remember the first time you tried to make it fancy for a festival back home. You ended up with 3 uneven plaits and an uncle who laughed so hard he choked on his mead. You tug the new section tight, sliding a bead up to secure it. The bead is carved with tiny wave patterns, gift from a lover, once upon a time. You wonder if she's still waiting. Or if she's given up and married a farmer with less salt in his hair. You exhale slowly, fogging the cold air. It's not the time for that kind of thinking. Historians still argue whether Viking raiders kept family connections strong during long voyages, or if these trips were a clean break, leave your farm, your debts, your attachments behind. Evidence suggests both happened. Some men wrote letters or left carvings in foreign lands as love notes. Others never went home at all. Your thoughts wander to the landfall ahead. It's said the local monks have thick, luxurious beards too, but they don't braid them. Too busy praying, you suppose. You're half tempted to ask one for grooming tips instead of silver. The ship rocks violently. Someone swears. Your comb clatters to the floorboards. You snatch it back before the sea can claim it. Losing a comb is like losing a tooth out here. You can manage, but you'll feel ugly and lopsided for the rest of the voyage. You settle back in, eyes half-lidded. The lantern swings wildly, casting dizzy shadows across soaked wool and wet planks. The light's just enough to keep you from falling asleep completely. Your friend elbows you and points at your braid. Crooked. You grunt, fix it with a few twists, and mutter, better. He shrugs. For you. There's no winning with this crew. You remember the elder who taught you to braid with 3 strands first, then split them into 5 for special occasions. You always mess up the 5th. Too many moving parts. The sea doesn't exactly help your concentration. You try it anyway, fumble it, curse quietly so the others don't hear. They'd never let you live it down. The man next to you is melting snow in his palm to clean the salt from his comb. It's slow work, but effective. You watch him for a while, considering it. But the wind is picking up. You know if you take off your gloves again, you might not feel your fingers for an hour. Instead, you rub your hands together hard, warming them with friction. You tuck them under your arms and sigh. You look out over the side. Endless grey water. Waves like mountains. The sky so low it feels like it might squash you. It's all so bleak. So cold. And yet here you are, determined to keep your beard neat. Because even when you're half frozen, half starved, and 3 days from land, you're still a Viking. And Vikings braid their beards. You don't want to just survive the sea. You want to look good doing it. You wake with a jolt as icy spray slaps across your cheek. Your neck stiff from sleeping upright, your back damp where it pressed against the hull. The sky's still dark, though a pale band is forming on the horizon, the promise of dawn, or at least something slightly less miserable than night. Your braid is intact. You pat it as one might a loyal hound. It stayed put through your nap, and you're almost proud. Almost. There's a tiny itch near your chin that says maybe something small and many-legged is setting up camp. You make a mental note to use the bone pick later. One of the younger men is complaining softly, again. His beard's only just long enough to braid, and he's clearly regretting ever starting. He's tangled it 3 times this morning alone. Now it looks like a half-eaten squirrel tail. You can't help it. You chuckle. He scowls at you, clearly miserable. The wind won't stop eating it, he mutters. Then feed it better knots, you say, reaching for your comb. There's a rhythm to grooming on board, one that takes practice. Comb first, always comb. Then twist, then bead. If you skip the comb, you're inviting disaster. Snags that tighten with every gust of wind. Historians still argue whether combs were used daily at sea or reserved for camp. Most agree that Viking hygiene, though exaggerated in some sagas, was better than what many later medieval folks managed. Lice were a real concern, but so was pride. If nothing else, the comb was your defense against humiliation. A few men are now trading grooming tools, swapping beads like coins. One pulls out a small jar of goose fat. He claims it repels sea lice. Another scoffs, he says it attracts gulls. You either jar warily. There's no quicker way to ruin your day than having a gull dive bomb your face because it thinks your chin smells edible. Still, the idea of something to soften your beard is tempting. Salt has turned it coarse, brittle. You rub the ends thoughtfully. It's like stroking dried sea grass. The youngest man offers you a drop of some oil he claims came from Francia. Smells faintly of rosemary and tar. You dab it on your fingers, then work it in gently. Your beard sighs in relief, or at least it would if it could talk. The wind shifts again, and this time, you catch a whiff of something stronger, fish guts. No, someone's cooking. A small clay pot, hidden under a shield, bubbling with dried onion, salted lamb, and wild herbs. The scent snakes through the crew, stirring a chorus of growling stomachs. One of the older warriors grunts. You groom your beard better than you feed your belly. You grin. You can't eat good looks, but you can scare your enemies with them. That earns a few chuckles. Even the grumpy one with the half-eaten squirrel beard smiles. You lean over the side and splash icy seawater into your hands. It bites, but it wakes you up. You pat your cheeks, brush some of the salt off your mustache, then check the braid again. Still tight. Still good. Your friend offers you a tiny bronze mirror. The surface is foggy, warped, barely more than a shimmer of yourself, but it's enough. You adjust a bead slightly and nod in satisfaction. You look like someone who could command a longship, or at least someone whose beard wouldn't shame his ancestors. Historians still argue whether mirrors were common on voyages or rare luxury items. Many that survive are from graves, suggesting they were treasured, possibly personal. You like to imagine some raider admiring his reflection before charging into battle, just a quick check to make sure the plaits are even. The light continues to shift, softening the edges of the world. A gull screams above. Someone starts humming again, an old song about a woman who braided her lover's beard before he went to sea, promising she'd undo it if he ever returned. You can't decide if that's romantic or just mildly threatening. The youngest lad asks what happens if your braid comes undone during a storm. You think a moment. Depends on the beard. Mine whips around like a cursed sea rope. Once got it caught in the rigging. He stares at you, wide-eyed. What did you do? Cut it loose with a fish knife. You sigh. Worst haircut of my life. He nods solemnly, filing the warning away for future use. There's something reassuring about these beard talks. You're half-starved, cold, and floating on a wooden dragon in the middle of nowhere, but talking about grooming brings a strange kind of comfort. Like trimming your nails during an earthquake, it won't help, but it gives you something to do. Someone asks if you've ever braided it into someone else's beard. You nod. Once. My cousin. We got stuck together for hours. They laugh, hard enough that even the oarsman crack grins. Laughter spreads like warmth, rare, valuable. You look down at your braid again. Neat. Secure. Salt-silvered and slightly stiff, but dignified. You tuck the ends under your collar. It helps keep them safe from the wind. And from gulls. You blink salt from your lashes as the first true light spills across the sea. It's pale and watery, doing little to warm you, but at least it chases the deepest shadows from the deck. You stretch, bones popping like firewood in the hearth back home. Your braid brushes your chest, heavy with damp but tidy enough to pass muster. A small circle forms near the mast where men trade stories about braiding styles. You join them, settling your weight on the creaking planks. One man swears by a 4-strand twist, claiming it stays firm even through storms. Another insists the best is the simple 3-strand because you can rebraid it fast if it unravels mid-fight. Historians still argue whether there was a single correct Viking style. Graves reveal all kinds, 3-strand, 5-strand, even intricate knotwork with beads or rings. The truth is, you suspect, much like today, people did what worked, what looked good, what they could manage half-blind in the wind. Your friend tries to demonstrate his method but fumbles halfway through, accidentally tying his own moustache into the braid. The laughter is enough to shake off the worst of the chill. He curses, but the corners of his mouth betray a grin. Someone passes around a pouch of ground herbs, smelling of mint and something earthy. Keep slice away, he claims. You sniff it and sneeze hard enough to scare a gull off the rail. Everyone laughs again, the sound oddly welcome in the cold. You take a pinch anyway and rub it into your beard roots. It's gritty, but better than the itch you were starting to feel. Salt and sweat make a perfect breeding ground for things you'd rather not name. A small argument starts over beads. Some claim bone is best because it's light and won't drag the braid down. Others insist bronze is better because it doesn't split. You turn your own bead between your fingers, it's bone, with wave patterns carved in. Light, yes, but it's cracked from too many hard knocks. You mutter something about needing a blacksmith who knows hair jewelry, and your neighbor snorts. What, forge you an iron beard? You deadpan, if it'll hold up in a gale, yes. He nods gravely. We'll paint it gold. Terrify the monks even more. You laugh, leaning back against a barrel. The conversation drifts to worst braid disasters. A man admits he once burned off half his beard leaning too close to a hearth. Another got his tangled in a horse's reins. You listen, grinning, until you realize everyone is waiting for your story. You clear your throat. Once caught mine in a shield rim during practice. Couldn't get it out without cutting it. They howl with laughter. Someone slaps your shoulder hard enough to rock you forward. The sea isn't exactly calm, but it's settled a little since last night. Enough to let you really work on your braid. You untie the old one slowly, careful not to pull. A few hairs come out anyway, inevitable. You finger them like a soothsayer reading runes. Too many lost strands mean you're braiding too tightly. This time, you go looser. The wind will tangle it more, but you'll just have to be vigilant. You separate the strands carefully, combing each with slow strokes. It's hypnotic work. The rhythm of the comb. The gentle tug. The steady drum of water on hull. Historians still argue whether Vikings practiced this daily or only for raids and trading. You're fairly sure it's both. Even at sea, there's pride. Even when no one's watching but your shipmates, you want to look like someone who matters. Someone passes you a small clay pot of seal fat. Try this, he says. Softens it, keeps salt out. You scoop a fingertip's worth and work it through the strands. It smells faintly fishy, but your beard immediately feels less brittle. You grimace at the scent, but at least it's doing something. You crack a joke about scaring off sea serpents with your new perfume. He shoots back that you'll attract every seal in the north. A gull swoops overhead, screaming. You and the others flinch in unison. Swear they know when we're eating, someone grumbles. You look down at your new braid, 3 neat strands, a single bone bead at the end. Not fancy, but seaworthy. Battle ready. You nod in satisfaction and tuck it under your collar. Another man is trying to braid his hair behind his head, grumbling about knots. You offer to help. Your fingers are cold but steady. He hisses when you hit a snag, but you work it loose with gentle tugs. Better? He grunts thanks, refusing eye contact in that stoic Viking way. You lean back again, watching the sea. The sun is rising now, barely warming your face. Gulls wheel above. The sail creaks. It's not home, but it's something. And at least your beard's ready for whatever comes next. Your fingers are still tingling from that last braid, the ghost of the tension lingering in your knuckles. It's oddly satisfying, helping someone tame the wild mess growing from his chin while the sea lurches beneath your feet like an annoyed ox. You settle back into your spot near the midship, your back against a water barrel that smells faintly of pitch and old mead. The breeze is picking up again, nudging the sail gently, as if reminding the ship you have somewhere to be. A nearby sailor, with a beard that looks more like a bush than a braid, grumbles that he never understood why everyone fussed so much. It's not like the gods care what our faces look like. You smirk. Maybe not. But your enemies might think twice if your beard looks like it can strangle them on its own. He grunts, unconvinced, and flicks a splinter off his knee. You watch him for a moment. His beard is thick, a reddish-brown mop of defiance, but hopelessly untrained. You wonder how many knots are lurking in there, plotting rebellion. Historians still argue whether such styles were regional or based on clan traditions. In some graves from Sweden, braids are preserved in burial waxes or shrouds, indicating intentional styling even in death. In others, combs are found nestled beside the skeleton, a last nod to the daily rituals of grooming. The man with the bushy beard mutters something about how long it takes to untangle sea knots from facial hair. You offer him your comb, silently. He eyes it like it's a weapon. Eventually, he takes it. Only because it's your comb, he says, gruffly. Don't blame me if it runs away screaming, you reply. Nearby, two men are crafting makeshift beard beads from fish bones and bits of wood. They've whittled spirals into them, one carving a tiny serpent that coils like the Midgard snake around the edge. You admire the detail. Going for subtle, I see. He grins. Scares the lice. Another joke floats through the air. Someone claims to have once hidden a coin in his beard during a raid, only to lose it 2 months later during a sneeze. Everyone swears that's a myth, but you've seen stranger things. The younger warriors, especially those new to the sea, are experimenting. One's trying to weave 2 braids on either side of his chin. Another sporting a cluster of tiny knots, each tied with colored thread. He looks like a festive goat. You keep your opinion to yourself. Think they'll respect you more with that, you ask gently. He shrugs. My mother used to tie my hair like this. Thought it might bring luck. You nod. You've heard stranger logic, and worse reasons to tie knots. The sun is climbing now, painting the waves gold. The deck warms just enough for you to stretch your legs without shivering. You let your braid rest against your chest, heavy and warm now that the seal fat has settled in. You close your eyes for a moment, imagining what you must look like from a distance. A longship ghosting across the water, its crew sporting elaborate facial sculptures and squinting into the wind like seabirds with opinions. A distant splash breaks your thought. One of the men has dropped his comb overboard. There's a collective groan. He stares into the waves like he's lost a piece of his soul. That was walrus bone, he mutters. You offer him yours, temporarily, and promise to help him carve a new one at the next stop. He nods, grateful. It's a quiet sort of camaraderie, built on shared discomfort and the constant threat of beard chaos. Historians still argue whether Vikings carried grooming kits in their belts or stowed them with their gear. Some kits, preserved in bogs, include tweezers, picks, and ear spoons. You've seen one, carved from antler, delicate as a surgeon's tool. You remember your mother braiding your hair before your first voyage. Her fingers quick, steady. The way she tied off the end with a strip of blue wool. She said it would bring you home. You never wore it into battle, too risky, but you kept it in your belt pouch until the color faded to nothing. Someone nearby hums a low tune. A working song, simple and repetitive. The kind meant to keep hands moving and minds quiet. You join in, your voice blending with the others in a strange, soothing harmony. Even the man with the squirrel-tail beard joins in, though he's still battling a stubborn knot. Eventually, you fall into silence again, watching a strand of seaweed drift lazily past the hull. You think about all the braids lost to storms, all the knots that never made it to shore. There's something oddly beautiful about it, how even vanity must adapt to the sea. Your braid, at least, feels like it belongs now. Salt-licked, sun-warmed, and looped just tightly enough to survive another day. The wind has shifted again, colder this time, carrying with it the faint scent of pine and something smoky, perhaps a distant campfire on some island or the memory of a forest burned weeks ago. You tighten your cloak around your shoulders and run a hand through your beard, feeling how the seal fat has softened the coarse hairs into something almost silky. The sea creaks under the longship's timbers, a slow, steady pulse that matches the rhythm of your heartbeat as you think about the long hours ahead. You've heard the stories, days when the only company you had was your own reflection in a dull bronze mirror and the tangle of your hair refusing to cooperate. Your braid, however, stays obedient today, which is a small mercy. You finger the bone bead at the end, its surface worn smooth by countless journeys and nervous fingers. It's a talisman of sorts, though whether it brings luck or just comfort, you can't say for certain. A fellow sailor sidles up beside you, brandishing a small wooden box. Inside are strips of birch bark and bits of dried moss, natural combs and brushes crafted to keep the hair and beard clear of sea salt and sand. "Try this," he says, handing you a slender strip carved with tiny notches. You run it carefully through your braid. It's rough but effective, catching debris you hadn't noticed before. Historians still debate whether Vikings used such natural materials widely or whether most grooming was done with the bone and metal combs that survive in graves. It's likely the truth lies somewhere in between, shaped by circumstance and availability. As you groom, your mind wanders to the practical side of beard care at sea. Salt water dries hair out, making it brittle and prone to breaking. Sunlight bleaches it unevenly, giving it that rugged, weathered look all sailors seem to carry. Without regular care, your beard could become a tangled mess, a liability rather than a mark of honor. A sudden squawk from a gull breaks your reverie. It circles above, eyeing the ship like it's contemplating a raid of its own. You shoo it away, knowing full well the bird will be back, drawn by the scent of salted fish and the promise of scraps. You smile faintly, thinking how even these creatures are part of the seafaring life, companions on your endless journey. Nearby, a few men are discussing the curious practice of beard oil, something you'd heard about from traders far to the south. They claim it was made from fermented herbs and oils, intended not just to soften the hair but to mask the smell of sea and sweat during long voyages. You raise an eyebrow. Sounds like the ancient version of deodorant, you say. They laugh, but the idea makes sense. When you spend weeks at sea, every little advantage counts, even if it's just smelling less like a drowned rat. The conversation drifts to beards as social signals. Some say the more elaborate the braid, the higher the status. Others insist it was simply a matter of practicality. Those who could afford to spend time on grooming were usually wealthier or had safer duties aboard ship. You finger your own braid, wondering where you fit in that hierarchy. You're no chief, but your beard is respected enough to invite comments and the occasional offer of grooming help. A young lad approaches, eyes wide. "Do you think the gods notice our beards?" You chuckle softly. If they do, they're probably admiring the craftsmanship. He laughs, the sound bright against the muted hum of the sea. As the day wears on, you feel the braid beginning to loosen, a slow, creeping slackness brought on by the constant motion of the ship and the salt air. You pause your work to ready the strands, knotting them carefully and ensuring the bead sits firm. The crew begins to prepare for midday meal, the scent of smoked fish and hard bread drifting up from the galley. The promise of food brings a rare smile to your face, and you tuck a stray hair behind your ear, satisfied that your beard has survived another morning at sea. The ancient ritual of beard care continues, a small but meaningful act of control in a world that often feels wild and unpredictable. You take a moment to appreciate the simple comfort it provides, a connection to home, to identity, and to the long line of men who came before you, braiding their own stories into the fabric of the sea. The sun is dipping lower now, turning the sky into a slow bleed of amber and rose, as you settle in to tidy your braid again. The gentle rocking of the ship feels like a lullaby, though your hands move with practiced care, methodically weaving strands over and under, tightening where the salt and wind have loosened the grip. You watch the horizon, an endless stretch of water and sky, and imagine the stories your beard could tell if it could speak. Tales of distant fjords, crowded marketplaces where strange spices were bartered, and quiet nights spent under a canopy of stars, the waves whispering secrets in a language only the sea understands. Nearby, the ship's carpenter hums a low tune as he carves a new bead from walrus ivory, its surface smooth and cool in his hands. You admire the craftsmanship, it gleams in the fading light, a perfect little treasure to catch in your braid. Historians still debate whether such beads were purely decorative or if they carried symbolic meaning, tokens of victory, love, or safe passage. Some suggest the patterns represented family crests or clan affiliations, worn proudly on the face for all to see. You gently pick up the bead and roll it between your fingers, feeling the grooves carved with care. It's heavier than your usual bone bead but has a satisfying weight, a small comfort against the unpredictability of the sea. The crew is quieter now, many lost in their own thoughts or preparing for the night ahead. The sound of the waves crashing softly against the hull blends with the occasional creak of timber and the distant call of seabirds settling in for darkness. You think about how grooming rituals, like braiding your beard, offer a semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. A daily act that anchors you to who you are, reminding you that beneath the salt-streaked skin and wind-beaten face, you're still human. Someone near you jokes about the curse of the tangled beard, a myth he swears by. Legend has it that a knot left unattended for too long would bring bad luck, storms, lost cargo, or worse. The others chuckle, but a few cast wary glances at their own braids. You poke fun, saying, maybe the gods are just picky about hair care. The laughter that follows is soft, easy, a balm for tired spirits. A flicker of debate rises as they discuss the use of scented oils versus practical seal fat. Some swear by the oils imported from far-off lands, lavender, juniper, and other strange fragrances, while others stick to the old ways, favoring function over flair. You consider your own beard, still slick with fat but smelling faintly of herbs you picked up at the last trading post. It's not luxurious, but it suits the life you lead. As twilight deepens, you feel the weight of the day settle in your bones. You finish your braid, knotting the new bead securely and tucking the ends under your cloak. The first stars begin to appear, faint and scattered like pinpricks of light in the vast dark canvas above. You breathe deeply, tasting the salty air mixed with the promise of rest. For a moment, the world feels still, suspended between day and night, between the known and the mysterious. Your beard, braided and cared for, is a small but steady reminder of your place in this vast, restless sea. Night descends softly, folding the ship into a blanket of quiet shadows. The stars now twinkle overhead, a celestial tapestry that guides the longship's course even when the compass falters or the fog rolls in like a ghostly tide. You lean against the mast, your braid resting lightly on your chest, the seal fat now fully absorbed, leaving your beard feeling surprisingly soft despite the day's salt and spray. Around you, the crew settles into the routine of night watch, their whispered conversations and soft footsteps mingling with the gentle slap of water against the hull. You consider the role of beards beyond mere grooming, their function as shields against the elements. The cold sea wind bites fiercely, and a thick, well-maintained beard can be a sailor's best defense against frostbite and sunburn alike. Historians still debate whether Vikings grew their beards primarily for protection or as a statement of identity. The truth likely blends both, practical armor and personal declaration rolled into one. A small fire flickers nearby, its warmth casting dancing shadows on the deck. You catch a faint whiff of pine smoke mingled with sea brine, a comforting scent that stirs memories of hearths far from the endless horizon. One of the younger sailors, still learning the ropes, approaches hesitantly. His beard is a wild mass of curls, stubborn and unruly. He asks if you can teach him a simple braid to keep it out of his face during rough weather. You smile and take his hand, guiding him through the slow rhythm of weaving. It's not just about looks, you say softly. It's about respect for yourself and those around you. As you braid, you notice how the boy relaxes, his worries melting away with each loop and tuck. There's a quiet magic in the act, a passing down of tradition, a moment of calm in a life ruled by waves and wind. You recall tales of Viking warriors who believed their beards held power, stories whispered around campfires of strands woven with blessings or curses, each not a link to the divine or the ancestral. The boy laughs softly when you mention the curses, but you catch a hint of wonder in his eyes. Nearby, a debate flares about the mysterious beard cult. Some scholars have proposed a theory that beard styling held ritual significance beyond everyday practicality. Some claim there's evidence in runestones and sagas, though others dismiss it as romantic speculation. You shrug internally. Whether or not the beard cult existed, you know one thing for sure: a well-braided beard is a good companion on a stormy night. The ship creaks and sighs, rocking gently as the watch changes. You finish the braid, knotting the ends with a strip of leather scavenged from an old boot. The boy thanks you, pride flickering in his smile. You remind him to keep up the routine. The ocean rewards those who respect their own faces. The night deepens, the vast sky stretching endlessly above. Your braid feels like a tether, a small but steadfast part of your identity, holding fast even as the world shifts and turns beneath you. The ship hums a low, steady song under the moon's pale light, a lullaby of creaking wood and gentle waves. You sit quietly, tracing the familiar grooves of your braid with tired fingers, the leather knot secure against the last breeze. Your thoughts drift to the morning ritual, waking to salt-stiffened hair and the chore of untangling the night's work. It's a task both meditative and frustrating, like coaxing a wild animal into submission. Historians still argue whether Vikings saw grooming as a purely practical matter or as a spiritual act, a way to prepare themselves not only for battle but for the journey of life itself. You recall stories from the sagas about men who spent hours perfecting their appearance before setting foot on foreign shores, understanding that their beard was their first impression, their silent ambassador. A merchant once told you about the exotic oils brought from distant lands, cedarwood, juniper berries, and even the rare myrrh. These scents weren't just pleasant, they marked status and sophistication among Viking elites. You smile to yourself, imagining the surprise of a grizzled raider sporting something as refined as myrrh oil. It's a reminder that beneath the rough exterior, culture was rich and varied. The tactile sensation of combing through your beard brings you back. You run your fingers along the length, feeling the small bumps of dried salt and the smoothness where the fat has done its work. Nearby, a soft murmur rises as the crew prepares for the evening meal, the aroma of smoked fish mingling with the salty air. It's a reminder that, like your beard, nourishment and care are essential for endurance at sea. You think about the practical side of beard care, the way the braid keeps stray hairs out of your mouth during meals or battle, how the beads can double as tools or even weapons in close quarters. There's a quiet humor in the idea of a beard acting as armor, but anyone who's ever faced a sharp gust knows there's truth there. A tangled beard could be a liability, catching on rigging or even an opponent's weapon. You remember an old tale of a Viking warrior who was saved because his opponent's sword snagged on his thick braid, giving him a moment to counterattack. Whether true or not, it's a story you've told yourself on many restless nights. The debate about beard length and style often circles back to identity and survival, whether a particular braid signaled a seasoned warrior, a trader, or a farmer. The lines blur, but the care remains constant. Your hands finish the braid with a final knot, tucking in loose ends as the first stars begin to fade with the approaching dawn. There's a calm in this ritual, a quiet affirmation that no matter how wild the sea or uncertain the journey, some things remain within your control. You breathe in the cool air, your beard a soft shield against the chill, and feel the steady pulse of life aboard the ship, the slow, relentless beat of waves, wind, and tradition woven together. The early morning mist curls around the ship like a soft blanket, muffling the sounds of waking sailors and distant seabirds. You stretch, the cool air brushing against your face, your braid resting heavy against your chest as you prepare for another day on the restless waves. You catch the faint scent of wood smoke and seaweed drifting from the galley, promising the simple breakfast that will fuel the day's work. Yet, before you move, your fingers instinctively reach for your beard, checking its condition after the night's slumber. Salt air, sleep, and the gentle sway of the ship have left it a bit unruly, with a few strands escaping the braid's hold. You smile to yourself, it's a reminder that no matter how much care you give, the sea always has the final say. You begin to run your hands through the beard, recalling that Vikings were known to use a combination of natural remedies to keep their hair and skin healthy on long voyages. Birch tar, for instance, was prized for its antiseptic qualities and used to soothe scalp irritations caused by salt and sun. Historians still argue whether these remedies were widespread or reserved for the wealthier crew members, but the evidence in archaeological finds suggests a surprising range of grooming products. You imagine the scene below deck, small pots filled with fragrant oils, herbs drying from the rafters, and the quiet ritual of applying these mixtures before setting out into the salty air. Your braid, once tightened and neatly knotted, now feels softer thanks to the oils absorbed overnight, the subtle fragrance of pine and cedarwood clinging to each strand. Nearby, the ship's cook hums a tune as he tends to the fire, the smell of fresh bread mingling with smoked fish and dried berries, a simple feast that brings a moment of comfort to the hardy crew. You think about how grooming and nourishment are intertwined, a well-fed body supports healthy hair, and a cared-for beard signals vitality and respectability. A sailor nearby mentions a curious tradition from a distant fjord, where men would braid small tokens, animal teeth, tiny bones, or bits of cloth, into their beards for protection or good fortune. You laugh softly at the thought, but there's a seriousness in the idea too. The beard is more than hair, it's a canvas for identity and belief, a wearable history of where you've been and what you hope to face. As the sun breaks through the mist, warming your face, you feel the rhythm of the ship's life settling into a steady pulse, the endless dance of wind, water, and woven strands of beard. You knot the braid once more, securing the leather strip tight, ready to face whatever the day might bring with the quiet confidence of a well-braided Viking. The midday sun glints off the water's surface, casting shimmering patterns that dance across the ship's weathered wood. You sit near the railing, the salty breeze teasing the edges of your braid, and watch the endless ocean unfold before you. Your hands reach up, fingers tracing the familiar texture of your beard, the subtle roughness where the salt has dried and the softness where the oils have kept it supple. It's a tactile map of your journey, each knot and bead a marker of time spent on the waves. You recall the story of a Viking trader who, legend says, once braided tiny pieces of amber into his beard as a sign of his success and travels across the Baltic. Whether true or not, such customs hint at the pride Vikings took in their appearance, even in the harshest conditions. Historians still debate the extent to which personal grooming was influenced by cultural exchanges with the many peoples Vikings encountered, Celts, Slavs, Byzantines, and how these encounters shaped the styles and rituals of beard care. The ship's carpenter is nearby, carefully carving another bead from a piece of driftwood. You admire the delicate patterns he etches, a mix of knotwork and swirling lines that seem almost alive. These beads are more than decoration, they are stories you wear. You smile at the thought of the first Vikings who started this tradition, weaving their stories into their very appearance. The beard becomes a living tapestry, a silent narrator of voyages, battles, and quiet moments like this. A young sailor approaches, tugging at a loose strand, frustrated with his own attempts at braiding. You show him a simple technique, your fingers moving slowly and deliberately, coaxing the hair into neat order. He laughs softly, marveling at how something so ordinary can feel like a small victory. You remind him that patience is part of the process, whether at sea or in life. Nearby, a quiet debate stirs about whether certain braid styles denoted rank or profession. Some argue that warriors favored tight, practical braids, while traders or craftsmen might choose more elaborate designs. You think about your own braid, simple, sturdy, unpretentious, and feel a quiet pride in its resilience. The scent of pine oil lingers on your fingers as you finish, knotting the braid firmly and tucking in the ends. The rhythm of the ship, the stories woven in your beard, and the endless horizon all blend into a gentle harmony. You lean back, closing your eyes briefly, letting the sun warm your face as the waves hum their ancient song. The afternoon light softens, casting long shadows that stretch like lazy fingers over the deck. You stand near the prow, the sea breeze lifting stray hairs from your beard, reminding you of the constant dance between control and chaos on this vessel. Your braid, once tight and neat, now carries the subtle marks of the day's salt and wind, a living chronicle of your voyage. You run your fingers along its length, feeling the tiny ridges of the beads nestled between strands, each one a small trophy of your travels. You recall tales from the sagas about Viking explorers who used their beards not just for warmth or protection, but as a canvas for storytelling, braids dyed with natural pigments, beads carved from bones and stones gathered from distant shores. Historians still debate the extent to which these colorful customs were widespread or limited to specific clans, but the idea of the beard as a portable chronicle is undeniably compelling. Nearby, the ship's cook shouts a call for help, asking for an extra pair of hands to prepare the evening meal. You tuck your braid under your cloak, its scent mingling with the faint aroma of smoked fish and herbs. As you move through the bustling activity, you notice how even the youngest sailors take care with their beards, copying the older men's techniques with varying degrees of success and a fair amount of laughter. You chuckle at the memory of your own early attempts, when your braid looked more like a bird's nest than a symbol of Viking pride. Practice, you remind the boy struggling nearby, is the secret ingredient. You overhear a quiet conversation about beard length and its supposed link to a Viking's valor. Some say that a longer beard was a badge of honor, proof of survival through countless battles and harsh winters. Others suggest it was simply a matter of genetics and grooming preferences. You think about your own beard, not the longest, nor the most ornate, but a reliable companion through every storm and calm. As dusk approaches, the sky shifts to a deep, soothing blue, and the first stars begin to twinkle. The ship's rhythm slows with the coming night, a gentle rocking that soothes both body and mind. You tighten your braid one last time for the day, securing it with a leather strip worn smooth by years of use. The familiar ritual brings a sense of peace, a small but steady beacon in the ever-changing sea. You breathe deeply, savoring the mingling scents of salt, wood, and pine, and prepare to settle in for the evening's rest. Night settles again like a velvet cloak, cool and quiet, wrapping the ship in calm shadows. You sit on the deck, the stars a glittering ceiling above, and once more reach up to your braid, feeling its familiar weight, a comforting presence against the vast unknown. Your fingers trace the worn leather knot, remembering the countless times you've tightened it, each knot a small act of care and continuity amidst the unpredictable sea. You recall the curious Viking custom of using scent not only for grooming but as a subtle social signal. Certain oils and fragrances could denote everything from clan allegiance to romantic availability. It's a reminder that even in the harshest environments, humans crave connection and communication. Historians still debate how widely these scented rituals were practiced, with some arguing they were common among traders and nobles, while others see them as the stuff of poetic exaggeration. You smile softly, imagining the effect of walking into a mead hall trailing the scent of pine and cedar, the soft perfume announcing you before you even speak. The ship creaks gently beneath you, a reminder that life here is a delicate balance of tradition and adaptation. You think about how the beard itself serves this balance, both practical shield and personal statement. Nearby, the youngest crew members practice braiding, their voices hushed, the slow, repetitive motion a calming counterpoint to the restless sea. You watch as one sailor carefully weaves a strand of wolf's fur into his braid, a nod to old legends of protection and strength. Such tokens may or may not have had real power, but they certainly held meaning for the wearer. The debate about whether these charms were common superstitions or serious spiritual practices remains open, with scholars divided. But in the quiet moments like this, belief feels as real as the ocean's pulse. Your beard feels soft against your cheek, the remnants of oils mingling with the cool night air. You take a deep breath, the salt and pine filling your lungs, and feel a profound sense of belonging to the ship, the sea, and the long line of those who braided before you. The ship rocks gently, a lullaby of wood and water, as you tuck your braid under your cloak and settle into the night's embrace. Dawn creeps slowly over the horizon, painting the sky with pale pinks and soft oranges, and you find yourself once again reaching for your braid, the strands catching the new light like threads of spun gold. The early morning chill brushes your skin, contrasting with the warmth of the ship's wood beneath your fingers, and you begin the familiar routine of smoothing the beard back into shape, coaxing order from the night's gentle chaos. You think about how Vikings cared not only for their hair but also their skin. Natural exfoliants like ground pumice and seaweed were used to keep the face clean and healthy, a surprising sophistication given the harsh conditions. Historians still debate whether these beauty rituals were widespread or confined to the wealthier classes, but archaeological finds of grooming tools suggest a culture that valued personal care across the social spectrum. You smile at the thought of a grizzled farmer gently rubbing seaweed paste into his beard before heading out to tend the fields, an image that softens the rough Viking stereotype you've carried for so long. The scent of freshly brewed herbal tea drifts from below deck, mingling with the salty air and the faint hint of pine oil in your beard. It's a small comfort, a reminder that even on the wild seas, moments of calm and care persist. Nearby, a group of sailors discusses the intricate knots used in braid making, comparing techniques passed down through generations. Some argue that the complexity of a braid could signal a man's patience and skill, qualities just as vital as strength in Viking society. You nod quietly, recalling your own early struggles, how fumbling fingers gradually learned the rhythm of weaving hair into neat, reliable patterns. Your fingers linger on the beads in your braid, each carved with care, each one a small piece of history, a gift from a faraway shore, a token of friendship, or a simple charm for safe passage. The debate over the symbolism of these beads, whether they marked personal achievements or were purely decorative, remains a lively topic among scholars, but for you, their meaning is clear: connection, identity, and memory intertwined. You tighten the braid once more, securing it with the well-worn leather strip, ready to face the day's challenges with the quiet confidence born of ritual and care. The ship creaks to life around you, sails unfurling as the wind picks up, and you lean against the railing, beard braided and spirit steady, ready to meet whatever the horizon holds. The afternoon sun filters through a haze of sea spray, softening the edges of the world as the ship glides smoothly over gentle waves. You sit quietly, fingers idly twisting a loose strand of your beard, a meditative gesture that feels as natural as breathing. You think back to tales of Viking warriors who braided not just for practical reasons, but as a form of quiet defiance, maintaining personal pride and dignity even in the face of uncertainty and danger. Historians still debate whether certain braid styles were used to intimidate foes or signal alliances, but the consensus leans toward the idea that grooming was as much about self-expression as it was survival. Your mind wanders to the beads you've collected, each one a souvenir from a different port, a carved bone from a northern village, a piece of amber from a Baltic shore, a shell from distant islands across the sea. Each bead holds a story, a connection to people and places far from this floating world, and weaving them into your beard is a way of carrying those stories with you, a tangible map of your journey. Nearby, the ship's blacksmith is at work, hammering out tools with steady rhythm, the sparks flying like tiny stars against the dim light. You watch as a young apprentice struggles to keep pace, reminding you that mastery takes time and patience. You smile, thinking about the slow art of braiding, how it demands the same steady hand and focused mind as forging iron. Both crafts require respect for the materials and an understanding of subtle strength. The scent of pine tar, mixed with sweat and sea salt, lingers on your fingers as you finish tightening the braid, knotting it securely against the persistent wind. A fellow sailor comments on how braided beards helped keep hair tidy during storms and battles, preventing distractions and mishaps, a simple yet crucial advantage. You nod, appreciating the practical wisdom behind this ancient tradition, and feel a deep connection to the countless men who have braided before you, their fingers moving in patterns passed down through generations. The ship rocks gently beneath you, the distant cry of gulls blending with the steady creak of timbers, and you close your eyes, letting the rhythmic motion soothe your thoughts. The sky darkens with the promise of evening, soft purples and deep blues blending into the vast expanse above you. You sit near the mast, your fingers working the familiar motions of braiding your beard, each twist a gentle rhythm against the quiet hum of the sea. The scent of pine tar mingles with the cool salt air, and you find comfort in the continuity of these small rituals, the braid serving as both a shield and a statement, tethering you to the long line of seafarers who came before. You recall a curious Viking practice of occasionally dipping their braids in seawater infused with herbs to preserve the hair and impart a subtle fragrance. Though this might sound odd today, it speaks to a resourcefulness born of necessity and respect for the natural world. Historians still debate how widespread such practices were, with some evidence suggesting they were more common in coastal communities heavily reliant on the sea. Your braid, dotted with carved beads and small tokens, catches the last light of day, shadows dancing between each loop and knot. You imagine the countless stories woven into those tiny objects, gifts from loved ones, symbols of victories, reminders of homes left behind. Nearby, the ship's navigator consults ancient maps, the soft scratch of quills and the rustle of parchment blending with the gentle slap of waves. You think about how these men, like you, relied on patterns, whether in the stars or in their hair, to find order amidst chaos. A fellow sailor jokes about how your beard looks like a ship's rigging, tangled but functional, earning a soft laugh from the group. You respond with a playful grin, knowing that beneath the humor lies a shared respect for the traditions that keep you grounded. You adjust a loose strand, feeling the coarse texture softened by the oils absorbed throughout the day. The braid is not just for show, it's a daily act of care, a way to hold on to your identity when the world is nothing but shifting tides. As night fully descends, the ship settles into a gentle rocking, and you tuck your beard beneath your cloak, ready for rest but comforted by the familiar weight of your braided companion. The ocean hums a timeless lullaby, and you close your eyes, the braid resting softly against your chest, a reminder that even at sea, you carry home with you. The chill of the late-night air seeps through your cloak, and you wrap your hands around a steaming cup of herbal tea, the warmth a small comfort in the vast darkness surrounding the ship. Your fingers absent-mindedly trace the beads woven into your braid, the textures familiar and grounding. You recall stories from the sagas about Viking seafarers who believed that their braided beards could protect them from evil spirits at sea. Whether it was superstition or a genuine spiritual practice, this belief gave them comfort against the unknown. Historians still argue about how deeply these beliefs influenced grooming habits, but it's clear that beards held symbolic power beyond mere practicality. The ship creaks and groans as it rides the gentle waves, and you listen to the soft murmurs of the crew settling in for the night. The braid, carefully maintained yet worn from the journey, feels like a link between you and the generations before who faced the same endless horizon. You think about the practical challenges of beard care at sea, saltwater drying the skin, wind tangling strands, and the constant need to keep the hair out of your face during work and battle. Braid solved many of these problems with elegant simplicity. Nearby, a sailor struggles quietly with his own beard, trying to master the complex patterns you once found daunting. You offer a steady hand, demonstrating the slow, deliberate movements needed, reminding him that mastery is a journey, not a race. The scent of pine oil, mixed with the faint tang of sea salt, fills the air as you finish securing the braid, each not a small victory in this ongoing battle against the elements. The debate among scholars about whether Viking beard style signified social status or personal taste continues, but for you, the braid is both a personal statement and a badge of belonging. As you settle down, the stars overhead blink softly through the cold night sky, and you let the steady rhythm of the ship and the familiar weight of your braided beard lull you toward rest. The soft glow of dawn begins to seep into the sky, casting a gentle light across the ship's weathered timbers. You sit quietly, feeling the cool morning breeze weave through the strands of your braid, each thread a testament to the night's journey and the days yet to come. Your fingers move slowly, methodically, undoing the knots of yesterday's braid with a practiced ease that comes only from years of repetition. The subtle scent of pine oil mingles with the fresh morning air, a quiet reminder of the rituals that anchor you amid the unpredictable sea. You think about how Vikings valued these small routines, not just for practical reasons, but as moments of mindfulness and care, acts of calm in a life often marked by uncertainty. Historians still debate the precise origins of Viking beard grooming customs, but the evidence points to a blend of practicality, personal expression, and cultural tradition, each braid telling a story beyond words. As you loosen the braid, your fingers find the beads, smooth and worn from countless voyages, each one a silent companion from distant lands and forgotten moments. You smile softly, feeling connected not only to the ship and crew but to the long line of ancestors who shaped this tradition. The ship creaks awake around you, sails billowing gently in the morning light, and the scent of brewing tea drifts from below deck. You take a deep breath, savoring the mingling aromas of salt, wood, and pine, grounding yourself in the moment before the day's tasks begin anew. You begin to braid once more, weaving your history into each loop and twist, a quiet declaration of resilience and identity. The braid is more than hair, it is a living thread connecting past, present, and future. As the ship sets sail toward the horizon, the steady rhythm of waves and wind carries you forward, the braid swinging softly at your chest, a symbol of the enduring spirit of those who journey on. And as your fingers work the final knots, you feel a deep, soothing peace settle over you, a gentle promise that no matter where the sea takes you, you carry a piece of home with you always. Now, as the story drifts to its close, let your thoughts soften and slow, like the gentle rocking of the ship beneath a starlit sky. Imagine the cool sea breeze brushing against your skin, the distant call of seabirds fading into the hush of night. Your braided beard, now resting, holds the stories of countless voyages, weaving together moments of care, resilience, and quiet strength. Feel the calm settle deeper with each breath, the rhythmic pulse of waves soothing every muscle and thought. You are carried by time and tide, gently cradled by history and the sea's eternal embrace. Let your mind wander softly toward rest, the hum of the ocean a lullaby that carries you into peaceful dreams. And when morning comes, you will awaken renewed, ready to braid new stories into the fabric of your days. Sleep well, traveler.